You just kind of in the back of your mind think, oh, it's not going to affect us. You know, we're carriers. I'm sure our kids will be fine. But I do have to say, after I had Caden, we sent away his blood work. When I got that piece of paper in the mail, my heart stopped. I felt like opening that paperwork was kind of like the longest few seconds of my life. And I remember ripping it open, and all you're looking for is two little letters.
And we just decided to follow the bilirubin because he still was very yellow and very jaundiced looking. And we went to see him, and he said, there's this one test, it's a genetic disorder, and I'm sure he doesn't have it, but let's go ahead and run it.
I was determined not to let my health deteriorate, however it started to deteriorate. And on a trip to Disney World in the late 80s.
He went down one of the water slides and he couldn't get up, couldn't come up from the water.
And just about drowned because I couldn't catch my breath.
He went and just laid on the lounge, and he was just really in shock that it happened.
So Freddie and I were both symptomatic at 35. We kept getting lung infections. We had a couple hospitalizations and pneumonias over a 5-year period. And Fred's wife and Freddie were vigilant about finding out why. Why do we keep getting sick? And a physician listened to them, looked at our family history, saw lung disease, early onset emphysema, early death. And so Freddie calls me. He said, I've got good news and bad news. And the good news was we knew what we had. The bad news was it's what Mom died of when she was 46.
First of all, just hearing a physician say, you have Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Just the word itself, or the words themselves, are scary. And after those words are said, the mind starts to kick in, questioning, what does that mean? What is it? What do I do about it? Am I going to die? Or all of those questions. And as those questions are going around in your mind, the physician continues to talk about what it is, what he's planning to help you do about it. But unfortunately, patients often don't hear it.
It wasn't until the NIH in 1994 told us that the longitudinal study was ending and that if we wanted more research done on Alpha-1, they weren't going to be able to fund any more research. If we wanted more research done on Alpha-1, we would have to make that happen. And that's when we decided that what we needed was a research foundation that was focused on curing Alpha-1.
When the kids were diagnosed, I instantly started writing letters to friends, family, anyone I could think of to raise funds. But because we knew how much drug development, research and development of a drug costs, that's why we're like, oh my gosh, we gotta fundraise, we gotta do everything we can. The next year we thought we need to do something more, and so that's when Richard had been doing a golf tournament for autism, and he decided, you know, we need to turn this golf tournament into an Alpha-1 golf tournament.
We had found a pediatrician that knew a little bit about Alpha-1. We didn't want to go to anyone that had no idea or that was asking us all the questions about it.
And so when we did have our first child, we had him tested right away. So when they did the heel stick for all the other newborn screening panel, we actually had a MUSC test kit right there. So through the ACT study.
And I called Donovan on the phone, and when I opened it, I couldn't even think straight. I saw 2 little letters, and I remember calling him saying, "What letters do we not want to see?" And then when I said it's an MZ, he said, okay, he's a carrier.
All 3 of our kids came back as an MZ. We're thankful that they have, one good gene. However, we know what the risks are, and we know what to avoid throughout life. And the reason why we had them tested at such an early age is because we do believe that knowledge is power.
Diane and Linda and I moved to Miami. We bought a house right next to Susan Stanley, whom we'd met through the NIH registry. And a natural progression of that was meeting other alphas in the area, and Sandy Lindsay was just that. And we used to have infusion parties. Sandy Lindsay was brilliant. She had that not-for-profit experience, and Susan Stanley was a journalist. She wanted to be able to connect alphas, to be able to talk with each other and share their stories like we did in our infusion parties. When we started the foundation, we had nothing. I mean, we were all volunteers. We had our brain power, Sandy's experience with not-for-profit governance, Susan's journalistic experience, and my serial entrepreneurial experience. So there was a magic 3 kind of perspectives came together. And we were the original incorporators of the foundation in AlphaNet.
And it was at that time I knew that I needed to take the next step in my health care. And I visited a pulmonologist who suggested at that time that I start augmentation therapy. Unfortunately, every time I got an exacerbation, I would lose a little bit more lung function. When I was put on the transplant list, I was taking in my oxygen equipment every day. I was around young children as an elementary principal. I was really putting myself at risk in that situation.
I did not want Jim to go and get a transplant. But when the call came 2 weeks before my son's wedding, I was a nervous wreck, not knowing if my husband would be there or if I was going to be making funeral arrangements and wedding arrangements. I was very, very scared.
When I got the call and they said, "Mr. Quill, we have lungs for you," I said, "Oh, that's great, as long as you can get me out of the hospital in time for my son's wedding." But I was determined, and it actually gave me a goal. So I went in for my transplant. The procedure went well, my recovery went well, and I was out of the hospital on a Monday. And my son got married that Friday.
We were up dancing 2 weeks later at my son's wedding. We hadn't danced in, I'd say, 10 years.
Clinical trials and studies are so critical to finding a cure and treatments for Alpha-1, and so Richard and I are like, we'll do whatever to try to get our kids in the study, or get us in studies, get anyone we know that could be a patient in a study, just because it takes patience, it takes people to go into studies to find cures.
After the transplant, I did a lot of soul searching, such as how will I go back and risk this transplant with a compromised immune system, being around very young children in a school setting. After a lot of soul searching, I applied to AlphaNet, and I was able to work for AlphaNet, and it probably was one of the most rewarding and excellent experiences I could have ever had, to be able to work with other alphas, to be in a community of people like me, to be able to share my story, to let them know I understand what it's like to be an alpha, and to go through those daily trials and tribulations that alphas go through.
And we've made great progress. We've certainly made a difference in people's lives over the past 20 years. And we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So our vision of being able to connect with an alpha as soon as you get diagnosed and not wait for years and years and years and meet that alpha for the first time at some meeting, that vision is realized. You know, we've got physicians all across the country and a growing number of clinical centers that affiliate with the foundation that have the expertise to make certain that you get access. We've got a dedicated research community, and we look at I look at the research community as good friends and as committed as any of us to finishing the job. We have immediate connectivity, alpha to alpha, that's magical. We will cure Alpha-1.
Sometimes the light inside our hearts is fading, and all the walls that held us up come crumbling down. Sometimes our will to just go on is breaking, and we can't see anything but now. Our strengths run out. But don't give up, even when your heart is torn, even when the waves are strong. For it's only through the night that dawn can come. A seed may fall and break, but to new life it awakes. This fight is worth the wait. So when all around is falling, we overcome the end with one more step, with one more breath, and always we begin again. We begin again, always. We begin again, always. We begin again. Sometimes it seems that all we love we're losing, and that ship that carried all our dreams has set its sails. Sometimes the days will feel like night, we're not moving. Is this real? Can I feel anymore? Is it me? Is it something I can't see? It brings you to your knees. Don't give up, even when your heart is torn, even when the waves are strong. For it's only through the night that dawn can come. A seed may fall and break, but to new life it awaits. This fight is worth the wait. So when all around is falling, we overcome the end with one more step, with one more breath, and always we begin again. We begin again, always. We begin again, always. We begin again. Oh, so begin again, yeah. From the ashes we will build, from the wreckage we will heal. Oh, this is not the end. Begin again. There's beauty in the pain, holding out for another day. Oh, this is not the end. Begin again. So when all around is falling, overcome the end with one more step, with one more breath. Always with every beat of your heart. Begin